Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sulani Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by your friends at the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, North by Northwest Digital, We Believe, We Vote, and the McGarry Law Office, the landlord's attorney. Now, here's Sulani.
Oh, welcome to this episode of Meet the Candidate, and today's candidate is Karen Hardy, who is running for the state legislature in the 7th Legislative District. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Sulani. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you could come in and introduce yourself and just start with the very basics. Where did you grow up?
Very basics. I was born in Auburn, grew up in the South Seattle Valley. So Auburn, Sumner, Puyallup, went to high school in Puyallup, and then moved to Vancouver after graduation and started working in Portland and kind of went out from there.
Okay, did you do some kind of schooling or training after high school?
Clark College in Vancouver.
Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
what took you to Vancouver. What was your topic of study?
Political science.
Oh, so that is relevant to what you're running for.
Strangely enough, but that was the last time that I had considered that, and until fast forward 30 years. That's painful to say.
So growing up in Puyallup, what kind of a first job experiences did you have around there?
Okay, so my first job was cleaning the meat department at the local grocery store. So still in high school, that was after school we'd go and they would finish cutting meat for the day, and that was my job, was to clean all the equipment and get it all ready for the next day. So
okay.
Yeah, it was. I think I started working when I was 16 and haven't quit.
What was your favorite thing that you learned about that job? From that job.
And I can still do it. How to fold a bandsaw blade.
I'm not sure that comes up really often.
It doesn't, but it's one of those cool, party tricks I know how to do, because there's a proper way that it ends up in a little coil and you just hang it on the wall. So, I know. Things you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. Were you your own supervisor?
I was my own supervisor. It was I was a very responsible 16-year-old. Our neighbor actually owned the grocery store, and
so he knew you by reputation.
He knew me by reputation. He'd known me since I was a little kid, and so that was just went after school, cleaned everything, bleached everything, made sure it was all ready for the next day, and
okay.
It was a great after school job.
So after you got out of school in Clark College, you were where were you working?
I worked for an airline for almost 20 years, and so I started at the Portland airport, and then I went to the Atlanta airport, and then the Portland airport, and the Salt Lake airport, and the Portland airport, and there was a lot of back and forth.
A lot of transferring around.
A lot of transferring around, bounced all around the country and got to travel around the world, and it was a great job. For just shy of 20 years.
Well, that sounds interesting. So in all this time, there must be some hobbies or something that you had picked up along the way besides just traveling.
But yes,
something you collect, something you tell us about something like that.
I'm a cowgirl, so that has always been. My grandfather was a farmer in Kentuckiana, as they call it, in the Ohio River Valley. Mm-hmm. So he had farms in both Kentucky and Indiana on both sides of the river, and he had mules. So my summers were spent back there, and then I always kept a horse as kind of my mental health. I had a really pretty stressful job, mm-hmm. and so I had a horse, or 2 or 3 or 30, depending on the point in my life.
Yeah.
And so that's always been, being a cowgirl is always it's kind of how I identify. I have a job, but who I am is a cowgirl.
Yeah, everybody has something they do avocationally that
yes.
that supports their vocation sometimes. So.
Yeah, it's a tough one to make a living at, but it makes a great life.
And so how many horses do you have now?
8.
Okay, well, so you've come down from the 30 or so.
Yeah. So when I had 30, in all fairness, they were working. So I ran a stable in Santa Fe. We lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I had my own stable, and I got to fulfill everyone's dream of becoming Roy Rogers. So at sunset, we would go out and we'd ride through the desert and watch the sunset and enjoy just that little bit of Americana that every kid grew up wanting to do. And so I'm on coffee tables all over the world.
taking people on.
Taking people on, and it was wonderful. It was a great way. When my kids were in the high school, it was a great job for them, and it was a great excuse for me to have a whole bunch of horses. And we leased a ranch on the Rio Grande River, and it was a pretty good gig.
Like a good family business.
It was a great family business. And
Well, what brought you from there, from Santa Fe, to land up in Spokane?
Well, Washington's my home, and it's always been my home, and it's where I always want to be, not where I always have been able to be. And so once our youngest daughter got into the university, she graduates December from New Mexico State University with a degree in business and equine and animal science with a bend towards equine. She's a cowgirl too. And so once she was in school and well situated, there wasn't anything tying us to New Mexico anymore. And so I started looking for where do we go now? We're kind of in that next phase of our life. Not really empty nesters, but ready for a change and what to do. And of course, my heart's in the Northwest, but my pocketbook wasn't always. And
I don't think you could buy a horse farm in Auburn these days.
You can't
Very
buy
easily.
No. Nor after living away for so many years could I tolerate the weather. I'd spent a long time in the high country, in arid country, in deserts, and so sunshine and dry air has really, kind of gotten into my soul. So I was looking for that mix of sunshine, dry air, but green trees and water. It's really hard to find. So I was very specific about what I was looking for, and I kept finding it in Stevens County, Washington.
Okay.
And in Ferry County and in Pend Oreille County, and it just kept coming up. And my handsome husband, who was born in Santa Fe, said, "That's Canada, honey."
Well, he's, yeah.
Yeah, I said, well,
it kind of is, yeah.
Kinda. He's like, I don't think I said, no, the weather's great. You'll see. And bless his heart, he took my word for it. And we found a great 20 acres on the lake, with the red barn and the whole 9 yards, and exactly what we wanted. And he loves it, and he absolutely loves it. And he can golf and he can ski, and it's a great life.
So you came up here, and what made you decide to go back to those political science roots? What was the motivation?
Well, so one of the first pieces of mail we got at our house was our ballots. And
when this was
when we moved up here. Yeah.
Year, I mean, approximately.
This was 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like 14. So, I looked at it and I was like, this can't be a ballot in Washington State because there's only one name on it for every position. Not just one unopposed, but,
There's a lot of that going around the country. It's not just Washington.
No, but it took me kind of a little, I had lived in other places that I didn't feel were as politically active and as politically motivated, and I kind of, maybe it was a misconception on my part, because where you live as a kid is always kind of different than it really is because you're a kid. Right. And you have these skewed.
When you go back, your memories don't quite match.
They don't quite match, and so I thought, wow, it just doesn't feel like what I know about Washington. But we bought an old house, we're busy, you check the boxes and you go on. And then the next year, I get another ballot and it's one name on it. I'm like, so then 2016, they have the caucuses. And I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. So I dragged my children. The children that have moved home from college with my children, their roommates, my neighbors who moved from Oregon, all to the caucuses, because this is our civics lesson. We're good, we're all good people. We're gonna, and no one had participated in a caucus before, because Washington State is kind of odd in that regard, and still caucuses. Most places don't. And I assumed that we would be the only ones there. It's rural, it's Saturday, it's the Democratic presidential caucus. There's going to be us and a couple of people. It'll be fine. They ran out of chairs. It was packed. I was like, where did all you people come from? So that was my first clue that what I was experiencing and what was on the ballot were not they weren't equal.
Mm-hmm.
That there were more people who were more progressively minded than were running for office, and that were participating in the system. And not by a little bit, but by, multiples. And so I kind of went about finding out why. Where's the breakdown? If there's this many people who are willing to take a Saturday morning off and spend 4 hours with your neighbors, why aren't they participating in city council, mayor? I'd had a whole series of ballots by this point, and it was local races, it was state races, it was national races that they weren't participating in.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? So in the process of answering that question, Brian Danzel was appointed to the Trump administration, which left the Senate seat in the 7th vacant. Shelley Short was the House member who, the whole time I've lived here, has run unopposed. She was appointed to the Senate seat, which left her House seat vacant, and her legislative assistant was appointed to her seat.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a Senate seat and a House seat available in the district. So who's going to run? All those people that were at the caucus, who's going to run? I've learned a lesson that when you complain, that is tantamount to volunteering.
Particularly in small and rural communities.
Small and rural communities, the one who complains the loudest is the volunteer. So everyone agreed that it needed to be done. Everyone agreed that we needed someone to run, and everyone agreed that it was probably going to be me. So here I am.
Okay. So as part of this new chapter, on top of your other new chapter, what would you like to see come out of this race? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Well, I think a lot of it I've accomplished already. People are aware. People are engaging, and people are inspired. And so that in itself is a win. For the first time in December, in 11 years, you will have 2 names on your ballot, not just one. That's a choice. That's democracy. Mm-hmm. Democracy starts with a choice. No matter which side you're on, whether you agree or disagree, a choice. Democracy requires a choice. So we win. And people are inspired that, and understanding that just because this is the way that it has been, doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way it has to be. And that there's a real misconception that the district is comprised of a certain makeup. Because those are the people who have been showing up and running. And you know what? God bless them for doing it, and God bless them for running. Because had they not showed up, there'd have been no names on the ballot, and where would we be? But that doesn't mean they're the majority, and that doesn't mean that they represent everyone. So I think, those changes are already happening no matter what happens. So I feel like it's been a great learning experience for me and everybody.
Okay. Well, we wrap it up. The last question always goes to the candidate it's your chance for the elevator speech. In 1 minute, summarize why should people vote for Karen Hardy for the 7th District?
People should vote for Karen Hardy for the 7th District because it's time for a change. Because after 25 years of the same leadership, after 25 years of doing the same thing, we are the poorest district. We have the highest unemployment. We have the highest suicide rate. We can't afford to continue the path that we've been on. I'm doing this as a public service. I'm doing this out of honest care for the people that I live around, and I want to make it a better place. So if you vote for me and you support me, we will change this, and it will be better.
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks Online thanks our community-minded partners at Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, North by Northwest Digital, We Believe, We Vote, and the McGarry Law Office, the landlord's attorney, for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.